Great. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us again. So good to see you. Thanks for bearing with the startup discussion, and so very happy to welcome you to the fourth day of this residency. How's everybody doing? Just want to check in with you. Feel free to just unmute yourselves and or sign or yeah, really good. I'm happy. Yay. We're all doing well. Great. So I just wanted to just say that, yeah, I'm really happy. I'm really excited about what we are doing, how we are thinking about, decentralized, decolonized um, futures for online performance, online immersive performance. And today I'm really excited to for the workshop with Marin Asselli, and how she's gonna like introduce us to working on Mozilla Spoke. Just before, let's see, yeah. Oh, Terry, yeah, we're really cheering for you for finals. Um, yeah. So just to start, we're gonna have some presentations of the fellow cohort, just so an exercise and really getting to know each other's work, and just get to know what makes each other tick and so on. Um, so we're gonna start with, well, Antoine is not here yet, but we can start with Marianne.
Okay.
We can
Hi,
hear you. Yeah, feel free
Marion
to.
speaking. One second, I'll just share my screen. Can everyone see the screen? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So my name is Marianne Talavera, and I work and study at NYU Tisch School of the Arts. I focus on AR, VR, and virtual production. Just a quick background: I was born in the Dominican Republic. I've lived in New York for about 14 years. My bachelor's was in film and foreign languages. My first master's was in Latin American Caribbean studies, where I um, I studied race and representation within Brazilian media. And then after completing my first master's, I went to completely different place, but went to Japan to teach English for a few years, and came back to New York and have been working at Tisch, and then started studying at Tisch in the ITP program. And I have a background in digital media. So for my job, I work as like content creation, for like working as producer, cinematographer, editor. Last semester, because my office we manage like Tish's study abroad programs, we had to finish the semester with the students who were studying Shakespeare in London remotely, and so I worked as technical director and editor for their performance of Coriolanus. And these are just a couple of stills from different video projects. And this is another video project that I did in Japan. And in terms of augmented reality, I'll just show you a little clip with no sound, but of an app that I made in Unity uh, looking at gentrification. And so basically, what would happen is you'd kind of just see like the street, and then these gentrifying objects would kind of take over the landscape. So it was like sushi and kale and things like that. You can see you just kind of like, it's a little hard to see, but tapping and seeing like wasabi peas and Starbucks kind of take over and litter the landscape. For the second version of the gentrified app, I made this commercial. I won't show the whole commercial, but again, using augmented reality, with my professor, I'd made a 3D model of a Dominican restaurant here in my neighborhood in Inwood called Elsa's. And so what would happen is that the 3D model would kind of like explode, and then in its place a Starbucks would appear. I'm just gonna show you a little clip. So I won't play the whole commercial, but just that portion of the augmented reality part. And for a couple of years now, I kind of have slightly put it on hold, but I've been working on a documentary on Dominican hair salons and the natural hair movement. I'll just, for time, I'll just kind of move forward, but I can share the link to the teaser in Slack. And so I wanted to bring, since I couldn't keep working on I didn't have time to keep working on the documentary itself, I decided to kind of bring in some of those same themes into a VR piece, which has now become part of my thesis. The piece is called Root, and it's examining kind of like the lack of representation within 3D space. One of the issues that I look at is in 3D marketplaces, there's often like a lack of Black character or Black or Afrocentric assets, specifically like hair assets, but then also characters. And then in character creator softwares, especially like the ones that are kind of free or open source, sometimes, or not sometimes, often the base model is a model with Eurocentric features. And so if you try to adjust the model and kind of make them look Black, they often look kind of odd. It's, for me, it's like a digital form of like blackface. And so the project is kind of looking at the importance of having a little bit more representation within this space. And hair is hard to do is hard to model. I'm not a 3D modeler, but I'm through this project, I'm learning how to use it. And to make like options for like Afro textured hair. And so I made this first iteration of Root in Unity, where you would kind of start in a straight hair forest and then go through this hair follicle tunnel, hearing interviews from people from the documentary talk about their hair journeys. And so the second iteration of this I made in Unreal, and this is what I'm building my thesis off of. And so the straight hair forward looks different. And here you can see on the lower right is the hair tunnel. And then finally on the lower left and in the middle, you can see like kind of the curly hair world. And I'll continue to build this out. And so here's just kind of an example of working. This is in Unreal. They have a new kind of hair plugin called Groom. And so here I'm showing just me working in Blender to make the particle system hair follicles curlier. And then this shot, it's not in the environment that I want, but it's just to show kind of one of the physical transformation that the main character of Root goes through, where she like changes from this dress to kind of like this spacesuit. And finally, another project that I'm working on, I got a grant from Tish to work on a mixed reality project. It's called Odisha, and it's a 3-part project. It's a 360 film. 2, there's a VR scene that's like showing like a capoeira scene and kind of the roots of that. And then 3, Intergalaxis is in a series of AR portraits. And I'm still working on that with another Tisch student who's an actor from the grad acting program. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Marianne. I'm really excited, especially, I mean, I love the Orishas. I love their dances, so I can't wait to see and hear more about that work. And I just wanted to mention, like, I've seen a bit of work of AM Dark and also LaJournée Macmillan.
Yep.
She's definitely like working all in that space of Black femme representation, and I'm really happy to let you guys know that she's going to be joining us on next Monday to to present her latest work in the process of Antidote with what she just premiered with Marguerite Jemens at a Bronze Center and Pioneer Works. It was a commission for them. So yeah, I'm just really excited
That's awesome because
about all you're
Lajane,
doing.
oh sorry,
Mhm.
yeah. So Lajane, she's actually during like one of my finals in the presentation, she was one of the guest critics, and I've connected with her before, and I absolutely love her work. So that's gonna be great. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. She's also been advising us as well. I see Anton is just coming in. Yeah, beautiful work. So thank you so much for your presentation. Yeah. Oh, so hello. There's Antoine. You just came right in time. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm sweating, but I'm doing good.
Yeah. Would you want to present now, or we just give you some time and we no, you're not gonna be here in the afternoon, right? So are you up for presenting now, or you wanna catch your breath?
Yeah, let me just get everything. Yeah, I can. Do you mind if I get a minute to breathe?
Yeah, please breathe. Yeah. Okay. So what if we have you present like at the end of the session? Would that yeah, would that be better
Yeah,
then?
yeah.
Yeah? Okay, cool. Okay, just so that you don't have to like jump in right now, like immediately. Um, so yeah, let's start the workshop because we have a lot to get to. Um, so I'm really happy uh, to introduce Marin Vaseli. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So Marin is an artist and designer based in Los Angeles, California, and her work is centered at the intersection of art, emergent technology, and activism. And I just wanted to add that Marin has just uh, been leading this amazing project on Mozilla Hubs called Gallery of the Future that along with colleagues at the Creative and Emergent Technology Institute. I think that's based in Portland, Oregon. And so I'm really happy that she's agreed to share about how we can also create in Spoke for experiences in Mozilla Hubs. So I'm just gonna thank you so much, Marin, for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I'm so excited to be here and learn with you guys today. Yeah, and it looks like, I mean, just from seeing Marianne's presentation, which was amazing, you guys have varying experience using 3D programs. Marianne, your hair explorations are amazing. I have no idea how you're doing that. It's so cool. I'm like, wow, I want to learn more about particle systems in Unreal Engine and stuff. So that was really exciting to see. Thank you for sharing. And then I know that, yeah, we do have a lot to get to, but just because I haven't been able to be here for the other workshops, I just wondered if we could go around really quick and you guys can just tell me your name, pronouns, and maybe like one cool thing that you've learned in the workshop so far, just like 1 minute, really fast, 30 seconds or something. And if it's better, you can just type it in the chat, whatever works for you. So yeah, I don't know, Marianne, do you want to start and then you can just tell somebody else to go since I know you know.
Hi, my name is Marianne. My pronouns are she, her. I really liked the Mozilla Hubs intro that we got that Bavia gave us, and looking at some of the work that Carlo's doing with like introducing like live video feeds into the space, and yeah, it's been pretty awesome. And so Carlos, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks, Marianne. This is Carlos speaking. I use he, him pronouns. Peruvian American composer and 360 video maker. Work with interactive visuals and whatnot. I really like the first workshop that we had with an introduction to the composer Raven Chacon. He's been on my playlist a lot lately. Indigenous composer, really awesome. Definitely check him out if you haven't had a chance yet. I'm gonna popcorn over to Alim.
Hi, my name is Alim Ringgold. I'm a visual artist, and I was really inspired by the world building workshop that we had and just thinking about how emergent technologies can have a hand in our future. And I'll popcorn over to Kat.
Hi, Marin. Marin and I know each other. We work in SETI, where there's a link in the chat that Simon put up, and we've also worked together in the Make Think Code Lab. So rather than tell you about myself, I'll tell you about the part of the workshop that was interesting to me. It's all been really amazing, but I also really enjoyed the world building with Tony. I had never, we went through like a pretty in-depth and thorough process to kind of like idea sharing and yeah, just like all of like the back conceptual and intentional stuff that goes into design. So I learned a lot and picked up a lot from there. I will pick Terry.
Thanks, Kat. Hi, my name is Terry. I use the she, her pronouns, and I'm dark-skinned African-American. Hair is natural. My shirt is sort of a dark maroon color. My background is primarily in dance and choreography, but right now I'm in school at Parsons in their design and technology program with an aim of combining my dance background with the technologies they have to offer. Right now, that being visual effects through film. And I really found some sort of light bulb moments during the decolonizing AR speech or lecture that we had last week with Selwa and I believe her name was Jessie. Yeah, it's just some things that I'm excited about just pulling into my own practice in a more active and aware way. I will, sorry, two screens. I will popcorn it to Freya. Did I say your name correctly?
Yes, you did, Terry. Thank you. Hi, Freya Olofsson. I use she, they pronouns. I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is Treaty 1 territory in Canada. My background, I'm from, on both sides of my family, from an Icelandic settler community. I've been popping into portions of the workshops, and then I've been doing my work of encountering the other people's work. So I had a chance to watch your intro session that's been posted on Spoke, and getting to know people's work from what's available. So online, I feel like I'm encountering everyone who's here, their work in different ways, and I look forward to more of that. And like Terry, I was able to be present for the colonizing AR workshop that I teach in dance and technology, and I've been reading some students' works on reflection about site specificity in video dance or screen dance right now. And so the aspect of site and decolonizing and decolonial practices are things that I'm ruminating on and sorting out for my own position in relationship to them, and in relationship to the technologies that exist, how I can support these conversations. So I'm gracious to be present. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Freya. And then, yeah, I won't like make anyone talk who's like not on video or maybe doing something unless you want to. Thank you, Tyler. I saw your note in the chat. And if anyone else does want to share, or just feel free to add it in the chat. Yeah, so I'm Marin. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an intro to building for Hubs in Spoke, which is the back end of Hubs. And yeah, just basically stop me anytime, interrupt me with questions. I don't care. And I would rather you guys just understand. I did, or Valencia or Jules posted in the Slack the handout that I have. I don't know if you all had a chance to download that, but you can follow along with that if that helps. If you need help finding it, let me know. I can send you a link. But yeah, that would be great to follow along with. You can follow along in Spoke if you want to, but just depending on what kind of computer you're on, like I'm just on a MacBook Pro, and I'm fine running Zoom and Mozilla Spoke, but it just depends on your situation. You might want to follow along. You might just want to watch the screen share, do whatever works for you. Ask me questions, follow along. Yeah, whatever. Sounds good. So I'm just going to jump right into it. Do you all have Spoke accounts? Does anyone not have one? Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, so I'm not sharing my screen. Everyone should be able to see that. So this is where you get when you first log into the back end of Spoke. I'm going to go ahead and go to the projects tab up here on the right. And this is actually all of my Sage projects. So you can see I have a bunch of stuff in here. I'll start you off with kind of going into a pre-made project in Spoke. So a pre-made environment. So here I would click on new project, and you have all of these pre-made environments that you can start with, which can be helpful depending on what you're doing. I'm going to use it more of an example for kind of showing you how to navigate around a scene. So yeah, I like using this tool. It's kind of fun, has a lot going on. Have you guys been, you've navigated around a Hubs environment a little bit, right? Yeah, and you've like added stuff in from the front end of Hubs. Okay, so then some of this might be a little bit of overview. But as you're, actually no, because it's different in Spoke. So as you're navigating around Spoke, you're gonna use your mouse to navigate around. You will use the left mouse button to rotate around your room. Well, actually you're rotating technically around your selected object using the left mouse button. If you're on a trackpad, you might need to adjust some of your settings. And so I'm thinking we can do that in the second half of the workshop. We're gonna have more of a work session. And then if you guys are starting to get into the work session, once you're hands-on and you're having some trouble with your mouse buttons, I can help you configure your settings. So just talk to me then if that's an issue. One of the things that is really important here is that you're not gonna really be able to get a good viewpoint of what you're working on unless you have it selected. So just an important thing is that anytime you want to select an object to then focus on, you can double click it, just left mouse button. So I've just double clicked this guy, didn't need to move him, Command Z, just a normal undo for Spoke. And so now I'm focused around him or this desk, and then I can just rotate around that as my center point. So that's pretty important when you're trying to get a straight on view of things. Just a little more of a tour. These little characters are spawn points. So generally in a scene, you really only need one spawn point. So this is where your character shows up into the room. If you add a bunch of spawn points like this has, all of these different characters, then when different people enter the room as different avatars, they'll end up in these different seats kind of randomly, which is cool. And I think like this is a great example of how to use that, because now when all these people arrive in your scene, which is only up to 25, so I don't know, this kind of looks like more than that, but that just means that they would be assigned randomly to these desks and show up there. So yeah, that is pretty cool. That is how spawn points work. And then I will just kind of explain these panels. This hierarchy panel on the right here, this is going to be where all your assets, like everything that's in your scene is listed here. So it's helpful if you do need to find something and select it, you'll be able to select it through here. I think there's like several rooms in this scene, so we might be selecting things from in here. And then if you're wondering how I'm zooming in and out, I am just using 2 fingers on my trackpad. So depending on your trackpad, how you would normally zoom, you might be doing something like this. You might be doing something like this. If you're using an actual mouse, you might be using that center, whatever that scrolly thing is called. So just depending on your trackpad, it might need to figure that out, which I can also help you with. And so yeah, so anyway, hierarchy panel. These are all the things that are in your room. There's a lot, so we'll get into that too. But this is just this creative room. You can see that they've grouped their stuff really nicely, which is also a great thing to pay attention to. It's really nice to be able to select groups because then you can just move them around all together. I will talk about the properties panel. So anytime you have an item selected, and this is really similar to like if you use Unity or anything, it's going to be really straightforward. Any item that you select from your hierarchy panel, anything that's in your scene has properties and they're listed down here. Different types of things have different types of properties. So a 3D model, they have the position, rotation, scale, the URL to the model. You can make it collidable or not, which is basically means that like you can walk or not walk through. So this is a ceiling. So you wouldn't want to be able to walk through a ceiling, which doesn't really make sense anyway, but never know. So you would want to make it collidable so that when a character reaches that point, they cannot go through it. So you would want to make all walls collidable, maybe. Depends. I mean, unless you want to be able to walk through walls. But for the most part, anything that's collidable, you won't be able to walk through. This down here, the assets and the elements panel, again, they're related. So over here, when you click on elements, these are all your different element options. When you click on assets, these are all your uploaded assets here, my assets. You're gonna have an architecture kit we'll talk about. So these are all these different assets on the side. So we're gonna get more into that, but just so you have an idea of the panels. One thing which I'll also remind everyone to activate is this. So there's this little menu button here. And you will go to developer and this will say enable experimental features. This is also in the guide here. It says important note. Like after I talk about the panels, and this is to enable that. And it's really cool because it gives you this little play button here at the top. And now I can preview my scene without having to publish the whole thing. So it's actually really cool to have that. So yeah, all right. So basically here is a sample scene. It's that's kind of how you're going to get around there. Does anyone have any questions on that before I move into like how we can start making a scene?
I have a question, Marianne speaking. The assets panel is all the assets that are loaded, that are available to use in this scene. It's not like a store that you're downloading things into the scene. They're already in there.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there is, so my assets is stuff that like I've personally uploaded. And it's actually cool because I didn't personally upload them into this scene, but I personally uploaded them into my account. So they're available on every scene that I go to, which is really cool. And then there are preloaded scenes, but it's not like Unity where you have to like download a pack or whatever. Like all these architecture pieces are there, all these Sketchfab models are already loaded in, which we'll go into. But yeah, so the only way you can really add new stuff is by uploading your own assets or using assets from the internet. So yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I will go back to the projects. If anyone has questions, let me know.
Hey, can I point out one thing? This is Simon speaking. I just want to point out that Maureen, you're using hubs.mozilla.com. So this is Mozilla's Hubs Cloud server. The ones we were using yesterday for volumetric performance, the ones that we've modified to work with volumetric streaming that we'll do later this week, that's on volumetricperformance.art. So they're the same program on different servers. So it's important to know that if you work in hubs.mozilla.com/spoke, your projects won't be readily available on volumetricperformance.art. There is a way to transfer them, but it's just something I want to bring up. So it makes perfect sense, I think, to be developing things on the hubs.mozilla.com instance, but just know that those things won't immediately transfer over. So if you're planning on making something that you want to use with volumetric streaming, you'll want to do it on the instance that we're using for this residency. Let me know if you have more questions about that. I understand that can be a little bit convoluted, and I believe there is a way to transfer projects between the two instances, but my understanding is I will have to help you with that on the admin panel of our server. So we can get that later. I just want to put that information out there up front. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, cool, that's helpful. I was imagining there was something like that where you guys would be working with, you know, some special parameters with the performance toolkit. So yeah. Anyway, I'm back in the projects panel here. So I am going to do a little demo of starting out making your own project. So you just go same thing as starting from an existing project. And by the way, while you're back here, there's so many scenes and you can remix other people's scenes. So you could search whatever you wanted here and do it. I don't generally tend to start that way, but I bet you could do so much cool stuff with it that I haven't tried yet. So I'm going to do a new empty project and it will load, takes a moment. So this is what they call empty. It's not really empty, but there's this crater and it starts with a crater, a spawn point, a directional light, skybox, and a floor plan. So it gives you these basic elements to start with. They're pretty useful. I mean, you need a spawn point in every scene. So it's good to just start with the one that they give you. You can always add more in from there. So I'm going to take you right into adding in objects. I feel like that's a good place to start so you can kind of see what possibilities there are. And I know you did this maybe a little bit in hubs too. So here's from the back end. I tend to start with Sketchfab assets. There's tons of assets in here. Like you can literally search anything you want and find it in here. No need to make your own assets. Really. Let's start with this little Casio. It's pretty cute. So you just click the object that you want once. It's not like a click and drag thing. And then we're waiting for it to load here. Maybe it's a huge object. Okay, let's start with these Jordans. Ready? So the object should basically position itself pretty close to the actual floor of the scene. So this is like the loading thing for the object. Sometimes objects are giant and that's why they don't load. Oh, okay, there they are. So they appeared. You can just click down wherever you want to land that, but if you kind of just let it auto snap to grid, it will position itself pretty close to the floor, which is helpful. So here's the Jordans. Now I have them selected. So I have really like a 360 rotation around them right now, like I said, with my left mouse button. I will show you now that you can move them with these 3 arrows. And that's with this move selected here on the top left. I don't know why my mouse is going crazy. You can also select rotate, and then it'll give you, you're able to rotate it on 3 axes, X, Y, and Z, by clicking these circles and then rotating it. Another way you can do it is from your properties panel. So I have the Jordan selected. So in my properties panel, the Jordans are what I'm looking at, or I'm looking at the properties for the Jordans. So I can also move their position just by clicking and holding down on X. I can enter a value into X. Now they're way over there, 1. Yeah, so anyway, I'll scale them up at low. Let's make them huge. That's kind of fun. And I'm gonna go back. I tend to keep it on move. Don't do a ton of as much rotating, I guess, or if I do, I can also do it from here. Sure, we'll do that. So yeah, so that's adding an object from Sketchfab. You can add as many objects as you want, as many assets as you want. You also have here Google Poly, has a bunch of 3D assets for you. So a note about accessibility as far as accessing the browser. What you'll see over here is this little warning sign. This is actually a big deal. It's nice that it gives you that warning, and it says it contains 59,000 polygons, 3 textures larger than 2048 pixels, but yeah, okay, it uses 320 gigabytes of RAM. Basically, all of that is like huge for this object. Like, it's completely unnecessary. I mean, it's just a really detailed object. If you're not too familiar with 3D modeling, polygons are basically like how many sides it has in a way. It's like how detailed the model is. So having 60,000 polygons is just too much for hubs, and it's going to make this load slowly on your browser. So I pretty much try not to use objects that have this exclamation point and just try to find another object if you can. If you need to use like one in your scene, you know, it happens. The Google Poly assets definitely have less polygons and will load faster, but you'll see that they look simpler as well. But even within Sketchfab, you can find assets that are not as chunky. You will just need to put them in your scene to find out. So you can't just mouse over them and find out that they're too big. So that's important. Definitely pay attention to that, and we'll talk more about it when we get to exporting. So yeah, any questions, just let me know.
I had a question. That's okay. This is Terry speaking. Apologies if you already answered this, but how would I like get closer into the scene, zoom in without like zooming into my actual screen, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, totally. So are you working with a mouse or a trackpad?
A trackpad.
And are you on a Mac or a PC?
A Mac.
Okay, yeah, you should be able to, when you're in this viewport panel on the top, like if you're moused over it, you should be able to do like a 2-finger scroll. It also might depend on your mouse settings. So either a 2-finger or the kind of like, I don't know, spreading index finger and thumb to be able to zoom in and out onto the object you have selected.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Are you in it right now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, and did that work for you?
Thank you.
Okay, cool. No problem. And yeah, ways to make assets smaller because assets like this one, you know, they're too large, but I mean, if you can take it into a 3D modeling program and reduce polygons, like by all means do that. Like that's not really what I'm out here doing. I'm just finding smaller models. But for videos, you want to just compress them as much as you can. When you think about it, you're in this really small space, even if you're in VR compared to how you would be seeing your video. So you could compress it a lot more than you think. You can lower the bitrate, compress images and audio as much as possible. If you are building your own 3D models, reduce polygons as much as possible, simplify your build. Yeah, so you just want to have smaller assets. You can have more assets. You can make your piece more accessible to different computer speeds and also for phone access. So it's pretty important. Yeah, great. So that we're in here. I am going to talk about floor plan a little bit. This is also a really crucial part. So that's a good next thing. Yeah. So you guys get it. You can add objects. You can add full rooms, like even in Sketchfab. Like I'll just search like I don't know, bedroom.
Can I, before you, hi, this is Valencia speaking. Before you go to floor plans, just, you know, since we're on objects, I found my object on the other side of the floor. So what would you suggest to do when
As in
that
like
yeah, it
underneath?
flipped and then not quite like it's like maybe I rotated it like completely. But maybe if it's I don't want to mess up the flow of your presentation.
No, that's fine. This is good. Yeah.
But maybe people
Okay,
find it
so
awkward.
like that or something.
But like completely on the other side that I can't even see the mountain.
Oh, like oh yeah, that I have to move the mountain. Like, okay, so yeah, so basically your object is just like way far away. You have no idea why it's over there. Is that what you're saying? Down. All right, I can't hear you for some reason. Okay, so is that kind of
Valencia, I think you're muted.
I am sorry.
oh good?
Yeah. So yeah, no, so it's yeah, so what you said like all the way down
Okay.
and like flipped.
Okay, so it's like all the way over here. It's like flipped. You can't even see your object. Sometimes like it's so far away that you really can't even move it. You're just like, it's on the other side of the world. Like, okay, this is a good, yeah, that's a really good example. So you're just here, you added your object and you're like, where is my object? This is so annoying. What I usually do is I just take everything to like restart everything. I go into my properties panel down here and I just switch everything to 0.
Mhm.
And then I usually like even the rotation. Oh wait, not the scale. That would make it invisible. But yeah, so I'll just like take everything in my panel to 0. Okay, cool. Now I have somewhere to start. They're so big. Yeah, so then at least I have somewhere to start from, and then you can try to reposition it from there. But that can be something troubling with 3D modeling in general. I find that like sometimes objects are just like it's really hard to tell where they are because you can't see like this third plane. So you think it's like right next to you, and then you kind of realize that it's actually a lot further. So I definitely tend to rely on this properties panel to like double check my measurements and even to align things with other things. Like if I want to align, like I've built a lot of things with like TVs. With them, you want a video on the TV, for example. So if you're trying to align the video as close as possible with the TV, you're going to want to look at the position and rotation coordinates in the properties panel, and then set your video to the same thing as that, basically. And then you might have to adjust it by like 1.1 or something like that. But I think for accuracy, if you do want to align things really perfectly, using the properties panel and typing in values is a good option.
I'm sorry, could I ask another question?
Sure.
This is Terry. Is there a way to change the orientation of your camera that you're in the viewport, like without, like I zoom in and I rotate, but I don't want to necessarily, I want to keep the camera in the same place and just like tilt it up or down.
Like this? Or I don't know if you're looking to, but.
I guess just moving the whole thing up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's flying, I think is what they call it, which you hold down the right mouse. Okay, I think this is what you're talking about. Hold down the right mouse button and then try, I wasn't gonna like go too far into this, but try using the WASD keys. And it allows you to go like, is that helpful?
Let me try.
Yeah, you can even just hold down the right mouse on your trackpad. You might have to activate that if it's not working.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Does that help? That's kind of the only other way you can move around this scene that I can think of.
Yes, that works. Thank you.
Yeah, that way you have a little bit more control. So that's also on the handout. But yeah, if you hold down the right mouse button, make sure you're over the viewport, hold it down, and then use WASD keys, use them just like arrow keys. You can kind of move around with a little more precision. I don't use this as often as I should. This is really helpful. Yeah, cool. Any other questions? But I guess before we talk about floor plan, actually, I will just show you a little bit more about assets and elements. Oh, okay. Banging tech note for you guys. Yeah, so I'll just talk a little bit more about assets. So I moved from the Sketchfab panel into my assets panel, which is where you're going to upload all of your own assets that you want to. I have a bunch of stuff in my gallery, in here, the gallery. So you can upload JPEGs, you can upload PNGs, you can upload MP4s, you can upload GIFs, and then you can upload GLB files. Also really annoying for 3D modelers out there. You can only upload GLB files. You cannot upload OBJ files or FBX or any of the other normal 3D formats. Most 3D programs do have a way to export GLB files, and there's some documentation on it online. So look for that if you are trying to export your own 3D models. That will break it down for you depending on what program you're exporting out of. So,
hey, Marin, this is Kat speaking. I just have a quick question. Since you're talking about file parameters and restrictions, you might plan to get into this later, but can you let us know at whatever point what your experience is with video size and video formats and how what the constraints are there?
Yeah, I'll talk about that right now. So videos have a lot of constraints that I don't like, but we work with them, you know. MP4s, it's the only type of video you can use, so make sure it's an MP4. Actually, yeah, no, MP4. That is the only one. I tend to compress them as much as possible. That's what I was saying. When you're in, if you're compressing from Premiere Pro, for example, or any other video editing software, you're going to want to not only, you actually don't even have to change the size of the video that much, but if you lower your bitrate on your export, you should be able to reduce the size by like a lot of megabytes or even gigabytes. But yeah, if you can get it, your file size, especially for a video, under a gigabyte, that is really cool. If you can get it under 10 megabytes, that's amazing and perfect. So that's what I would say. And like, yeah, just don't be afraid of like making it too small. Honestly, like you would in other forms where you're like, oh no, my video is going to be blurry. I just wouldn't even really worry about that in Hubs or in Spoke, because you would be surprised at how small you can make it and then have it still look good. For example, I don't know if I want to like just use your video, Kat, for this. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because I have it in here. So this is a video that Kat and Josie submitted for our gallery project. So when I imported it, I just clicked it, I dragged it into the scene. Now I'm going to double click it so I can focus on it. I'm going to make it larger. So I'm just dragging the scale up here in the properties panel. And I'm going to bring it up a bit above the ground plane. Now that I have it in there too, since I have this preview button enabled, I can actually click that and I can see it playing, which is helpful. Just get an idea of how it's going to look. Now I have a lot of other control over it in the properties panel. I can decide if I want it to show controls or not to the viewer. So if I want the viewer to be able to pause it and play it and adjust the volume. So I can turn that on or off, autoplay, looping. and then the audio, which I will go into as well. One thing with videos is that another way that you can show them is through a YouTube link. I highly recommend that if you're able to. If you have the video on YouTube, instead of importing the video, you can just go here to My Elements, and you can select a video element, and then you can put a YouTube link here. Let me just grab one really quick. All right, so once you have the video element, you could, okay, so I dragged my video element, it's just there. I have it selected right now, so I see it in the properties panel. I can select video, paste the YouTube video in there. And it's loading. This is something that you have to play around with a little bit. Sometimes it should auto-generate a thumbnail. It can be a little bit glitchy with that, which is why some people just choose to import their own video instead of using a YouTube link. But it should work, and sometimes it doesn't work in the preview, and you have to publish it to see it work with the YouTube link. But you can still loop it, you can still autoplay it, you can still have controls, and you're not using any video RAM from your scene. So it allows you to have more other objects, more videos, stuff like that. So that's helpful if you can loading video. We won't spend too much time on that, but feel free to play around to see how that works for you, or whether you prefer importing your own videos. Well, while we're here, I'll also talk about changing. Oh yeah, so one thing, you can't have video textures in hubs, like as in you could in Unity, like you could just texture like sphere with a video. Spheres are planes, and that's it. So you can see them from the front and the back. They're planes. You can put them like on walls and make them look like they're walls, but you can't like texture any curved objects with them. So that's just something to know. Like I said, I use them for TVs and stuff. You can just change the scale. I've used an iPad 3D model, and then like had it sitting on a table and had a video playing on it. So you can like get creative with it and try to texture things, but it's still going to be a plane. And you can also change like the size, the scale, like to the aspect ratio if you want it to be more of a vertical or whatever it is. So other cool thing you can do, you have the video selected, you can change it from projection flat to 360 equirectangular. And now it's a video sphere. And if I want to make it really big, I can have it actually be like the sky that people will see when they're in the scene. So now, like when people are in the scene, this is just a preview, so you can't tell exactly, but they'll see this video as the background.
Sorry, Marianne here. Does that mean that you can use actual 360 video?
Yes. Yeah, and you could also do this with photos. So you can use equirectangular photos or any type of photo.
Nice.
Yeah, so, and that's the same when you're in this assets panel and you want to drag in your own assets. You can drag in an image here, and then you could put a link, or you could go to My Assets. Click, it really wants to play that song. Yeah, you can click on an image asset and just drag it in. Yeah, okay, I'll show you really quick. We could make this 360 equirectangular, and now I have this image also as a sphere. So this one. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, here. Sorry if you said this before. So is there a restriction on what size of video you can upload?
It tends to like, there's not actually one, but when you are uploading, sometimes you'll just notice that it won't work if you try to do a large video. So I try to stick with like under 50 megabytes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So.
Hi, Marin. This is Carlos speaking.
Hey.
I had a question. You actually answered a lot of my questions that I had in my mind, so great job on the telekinesis part. I was also wondering what 3D program you might use to my question is that I wonder how I can add texture maps to 3D objects. So I was wondering what 3D program you might use to make something like that.
Well, okay, to like your own 3D objects?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like Blender is free, so that's cool. Blender doesn't have a native GLB exporter, or it's also called GLTF sometimes. It doesn't have that native exporter, but you can download an exporter from Blender. I know Cinema 4D has an exporter in this format. Otherwise, Marianne might know better than me. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So, yeah, okay. I'm just gonna stick with assets for a minute because, oh yeah, also just save your stuff, Command S, or you can go to the menu and click save. Gordon's Excel. Yeah, just try to save it often. Just make sure nothing crashes. You can also do file save. You can also like export the project as a GLB, which could be helpful. I haven't actually done that, but to like be able to maybe add textures to certain objects that you've used in your scene. So that could be something to look into. So other assets, let's do sound. You can add MP3s. Could you guys hear that? No. Okay. So you just click it and then drag it onto the scene. You'll see this little music icon or speaker icon there. And if you enter into your preview mode, you can also hear the sound. And you can make adjustments to the sound. There's two types. There's stereo and there's panner mode. Stereo is going to be just to hear it when you walk in the scene. Are you guys hearing that? Or no? Oh, okay. No. Well, I don't know then. Maybe you just can't. That's fine, honestly. But essentially, if you just put stereo, it's just going to be loud when you walk in. The sound doesn't change. It just plays. And if you click panner node, that means that you have now spatialized audio. So the source of your audio is this speaker thing, which will be visible in your scene unless you click this check mark next to visible, then it will be invisible, but you will still hear it. You can do that with any object. You can make it invisible, but it still exists. So if there's a wall, and you want it to be that people can't walk through there, but you don't want them to see the wall, you could uncheck visible, then there's still wall. But yeah, so with panner node, and I have more notes about this in the handout as well. I think so. About roll-off factor and how to kind of get the sound to work best. Like, I think we go to like linear is a good way, and you can set your roll-off factor pretty low. And then you can like, you can test it out a little, but you'll see that like you can have a lot of control over how loud it is when you're close to it, how quickly the sound goes away when you get far from it. There's also this whole other thing that you can explore, which is these triggers. Oh, trigger volume. It's really fun. Yeah, so you can set like the sound to only trigger when somebody enters a certain space. I also am not going to go into that, but it's really cool that you can even do that. So that's a fun thing to try. This elements panel is where you can add in any spawn points. You can add in links to anything that you want. You can add in links to other hubs rooms. You can add in links to other websites. And so say I wanted to add in a link to my Spoke workshop handout. I just copied the link and now I'll paste it here into the URL. And now it links there whenever you're in the scene. Let's see if it works with a preview. Okay. Yeah, it won't work. Some things don't work in the preview because it's an experimental feature, but now when you go to that scene, you should see a thumbnail. When we publish the scene, you'll be able to see a thumbnail and then the link. And then one other thing I will say is if you ever want a different thumbnail image for your link, you can make it. You can add in an image. Yeah, I'll do this as an example. So an image. So I can add in the image. So say I want like this image to be in front of my link so that people see this image and then they can click through and it will say like open link. What I can do is I can see the position of this. I have 2, 1.5, 6.5. I could try to move this to the exact position. And you'll see that it kind of isn't sure what's in front. It's like, oh, is this painting or is this link in front? Because they're in the exact same spot, which I did using the positions panel. Now I can move this image. Just trying to see what panel it is. I can move the Z on the link, the Z axis, just like a tiny bit behind the image. That's literally 0.01. And now you'll see when we publish it, you'll see that you can see this image, you can walk up to it, you can mouse over it, and then it'll give you, still prompt you to open the link. So that's just a nice tip to have and something to play with. So yeah, as far as videos go, you can also, using elements and importing a video, or not importing, but using the video element, you can use links to live streams. You can use links to all different types, like you can use links to Vimeo or Twitch. So that's cool to know as well. All right, now I will talk about floor plan, because even though it's not fun, it is crucial. So right now our floor is this crypto. If you click on the floor plan, you're always going to have a floor plan in your room, and you won't be able to naturally see the floor plan. Anytime you want to see the floor plan, you need to click regenerate. It will generate a floor plan for you. This is important because this is the walking area of your scene. So if it's not generated correctly, people will not be able to walk around your scene correctly. Or they might just like fall through the floor, or they might get stuck. So this can take a second. And now you see that it looks like this. And yeah, you'll see that there's like this webbing. It's yellow, or if you can't see that, then just notice that it's like this grid. that is not actually the floor plan. It's actually this highlighted blue area, or just like the blue, or just the highlighted area that's not the grid, that now has this like single color over it. So that is actually your walkable area. It's actually made the tops of these shoes walkable, which is really cool, but you have no way to get up there. But like, if you made a staircase now, you could walk on top of these Jordans, which I'm kind of excited by the idea of now. But yeah, so that's your walkable area. But let's say we change it up a little bit and the crater, and we just delete it. I just use the backspace key, nothing crazy there. So now it would be a bit weird because we probably don't even have anywhere to walk. So if I regenerate the floor plan, you'll see it always just shows the last floor plan. So that's not correct now. We know that there's no crater. So I can regenerate again. You always want to check this before you publish your scene. I have no floor plan. It has this yellow grid, but you can't walk on that. So right now, like if you were to activate the scene, you'd probably just fall through the floor infinitely. So one thing I can recommend is using a ground plane. It's in Elements. Just drag it to your scene. I have my color set to green right now, which makes it really obvious. It should auto snap somewhat into place. So I want Y to be 0 because like that is actual 0. I just want everything to be 0 actually. That's the ground really is in this situation. So now that I have now that I have a ground plane, my floor plan should generate correctly. So anytime you have an issue, you might with your floor plan, you might just need to add a ground plane, and you can add an image over it. You can make it a different color. You can make it invisible. Just make sure you have a ground plane or something underneath, or you will like to make your floor plan. And you might have some issues with floor plan. So in the second part of the workshop, we're gonna do a little work session, and then I can help clarify, or you can always ask. Like I still struggle with ground planes sometimes. It can get weird. So now this whole area is highlighted blue, which is also really hard to see because it's like turquoise because the ground was already green, but it's a different color. And now you can walk all over this area. So it's important to always have walkable areas. If you're going to use staircases, make sure your staircases are walkable. Make sure that any area you want to walk on is highlighted in the floor plan. And then here, there's a bunch of settings. I also put this in the handout because it gets really specific. And for the most part, you shouldn't need to adjust any of these. If you're getting crazy with like jagged surfaces that you're walking all over, or lots of steep heights, or whatever it is, you might need to play around with your properties to make sure that everything's covered in the floor plan. I have some details on that in the handout, and feel free to ask questions. So yeah, that was a lot. I do have a couple other things we should go over. I just want to talk about the architecture kit quickly. So the architecture kit is used for like building your own rooms. But I mean, it's a bit limiting because I mean, we don't really like, we're in virtual space. We don't like need to be in a room really. But if you really want to be in a room or you want to build one, you can do it like so. Go to the architecture kit. You have all these different options: floor, door, wall, window, all these things that the houses or buildings have. It should again kind of auto snap to the ground with a floor plane. And you should be able to like just keep taking them and dragging them next to it. Next to it. You should auto snap. And then once I get like, say these 4 in here, yeah, 4, I can select them all. I'm holding down Shift, I'm clicking each one. And then I can click Command G or Control G, or right click G. And now that's a group. It's helpful to make groups because you might end up having a lot of floor pieces, and then you can control them as one row. I can also click Command or Control D on this group, and now I've duplicated it. So now I feel like I added something. I think I might have put the ground plane in that group. I did, so I can drag it out. So now that's the group. So yeah, and then I duplicated the ground plane. So let's get that. We don't need to do that. All right, so yeah, anyway, architecture kit. So now I'm repositioning this ground plane to just like put groups, kind of like stack up groups next to each other to make a big ground plane. Then you could add in a wall. Walls are one-sided. You'll see like it can get wonky with the architecture kit. I already have like a gap here in between my two floor groups, which I can fix. It's best to look at the property panel again and try to get pretty precise if you're going to be trying to build like perfect rooms. So that's like the best thing I can recommend. The walls are one-sided. So if you add one from the back side, you won't be able to see it. So definitely think about that, whether you want people to see your room solely from the inside or solely from the outside. So that will depend on like where you put your spawn point. So if you put your spawn point inside the room and you make no way to get out, people are never going to see the outside of the walls. So you really only need them on the inside. They have some pre-made textures that you can do for the walls. Yeah, cement, stone, yeah, there's a bunch. So it's pretty straightforward, but like as far as what's in there, but it just can get a little confusing as you start to add things. There's staircases. One thing that's cool about it is that it is low poly as opposed to using maybe some sort of pre-built structure. So low polygon, so loads quickly. If you are going to build a big structure, it may be best to use an architecture kit and do it yourself rather than using a pre-made model of a structure for loading purposes. Unless anyone has like questions on that, I think I will stop with the architecture kit there.
Hi, this is Kat. I have a quick question.
Sure.
The first question, well, so it's like the ground plane. So if you are going to be using the architecture kit, do you still need to add something to this these floor panels, or would that, like how you have the ground plane first?
Mm-hmm.
Do you always have to do that, whether it's a pre-made or an architecture kit scene?
Pretty much, yeah. Actually, more so if you have, it depends, but yeah, like with the architecture kit, I would definitely start with the ground plane. Actually, in general, yeah, I would just use a ground plane because I've also used a model from Sketchfab, like a building or something, and sometimes it works without a ground plane. But also sometimes I find myself still needing to create one. So you could try, run your floor plan. If it doesn't work, just when in doubt, just add a ground plane. That's what I would say. Is there another question?
This is Kat again. I just have one more quick question. Are orders of operation important here? Like, would you need to do a ground plane first and then build up from it? Or can you, like you were saying, run your floor plan and then you can always go back in and add a ground plane?
Yeah, you can. You can always go back in. No, yeah, like it's not like it's actually weird that they call it hierarchy, but it's not a hierarchy. There's no like necessary ordering, or it's not like layers in Photoshop where whatever's on top matters. So I would just do whatever organizational thing works best for you. Like if it helps to have the ground plane on the bottom there, it's cool, but there's no layering. I do want to get to exporting, but I want to show you one more fun thing which is adding in GIFs. This is a really cool way to get some motion going. It's also like smaller than a video, so it's nice. So here's a GIF that actually has a transparent background. And when you load it into Hubs, you'll see that it has a black background generally, or a white, but probably black. And I'm just making it big so you can see it. Then this is for GIFs. I believe it works on images with transparent backgrounds as well. You'll go down here in the properties panel. Under transparency mode, you'll click blend, and ta-da, it's a GIF with a transparent background. And now when I play, oh, sorry, GIFs don't preview in this experimental preview feature. So I'll have to show you when I export. But it's really cool because I have a GIF with a transparent background. And it's just such a neat feature, I think, for so little that you actually have to do. And I would think about that in general, sizing of files. Like if you want to have a 3D model of something, but it's not super necessary that it be 3D for it to look 3D, then you could just make a, like a texture, you could just make a image with a transparent background, and then you have to save yourself so much of your file size by doing that. And you could also make this equirectangular. So that's like a whole other aspect that we're getting now. So let's actually try that when we export this. So we're kind of near the end of this workshop, and I still, the first part at least, and I want to leave some time to the questions, although we can also do that more when we come back. So really quick, I will save my project again. I'm going to show you the process of publishing. I'm going to change the color of the ground really quick. This does not matter. Okay. Let's just make it brown. That just seems nicer. Okay, saving again. And I am now going to publish. So to publish, we click publish. Oh, it generates a project screenshot based on whatever frame you're looking at that moment where you click publish to Hubs. I just found that out like a few weeks ago, so it's nice to know. So generates a screenshot. You can click save and publish if you're happy with that. It will then go to exporting your scene. Also, you can change that next time you publish it. So if you want to change your screenshot, don't feel like it's the final thumbnail that you're going to have ever. This takes a while. Any questions?
Marin, I had a question.
Sure.
This is Terry speaking. Would the transparency mode blend scenario, would that work for video? Like if a video with the transparent background?
It should work, yeah. Let's actually, I'm gonna make sure, but yeah, I think that does work. After we publish this, I'll just make sure that it has that option for that layer. Good question. Sure. Yeah, because you could do like an alpha layer on After Effects or something. That would be cool. Okay, so this is a performance check that it's going to do every time you publish. This is super important. This is what I was talking about with like making your scene accessible to computers of all types, phones, you know, just like making the file load faster. So polygon count, so you have this nice little guide that's like medium, low, high. That's helpful. Things are mostly medium and low. You're doing great. You have this high textures, lights. You really can't use too many more than 3 lights without it freaking out. So I wouldn't lean on lights too much. So we're doing pretty good here. I will just tell you for the sake of time that if I deleted this shoe model that we already know is large, this would all be at low. And we would have a super fast scene. So that's a reason to watch out for those high texture models, although this will be fine in those high poly models, but this isn't too bad, but as soon as if I added one other model in here that also had high textures and polygon counts, it would be a lot. At first I was into like pushing the limits of everything in hubs and just being like, well, whatever, it's still letting me export. But turns out that that results in really long load times for users. So think about that and you will get more and more familiar with it as this one. So publishing the scene.
And how did you pull up the performance check screen again? Was it automatic when you chose to publish?
Yeah, it comes up every time you publish. And I will show you a way to look at it while you're looking at the scene too. So yeah, so then I clicked on open my scene. I have a chance to create a room. You can just click create a room and it'll name it something random. I usually click on this little dot, dot, dot and name my room. What do I name it? I don't know. So that'll also show up here in your hyperlink at the top. So it's good to have a room name that you want to link people to. And then it will take us into the room. So that's pretty good loading time. I wish you guys could hear the sound. It's pretty good, but it's cool. Entering the room. And yeah, so I spawned right where my spawn point was. You can see my GIF happening here. It's pretty cool. Oh, this got a little messed up because I didn't think about the back. Let's see if it works from the front though. It didn't really work, but sometimes that works, you know? Maybe we need to do it from the other side. It's always troubleshooting around here, but you can see at least how the link looks. If I open link, it will take me in a new tab to this spoke handout. So if you wanted to just put a website in there, you could really easily do that. And it will auto-generate a thumbnail. This does work, putting an image in front of your thumbnail, but you know, playing around. The music is so fun, guys. I'm like in a club right now with these giant shoes, this weird painting. I don't think I made the video collidable, so I can just walk right through it. You can also hold down Shift to move around your scene a little bit more quickly. And then, okay, here is, oh yeah, so here's how you can look at the performance of your project from this side, I believe. Yeah, if you click on, like right there on that bottom corner, there's this tiny thing that says 48 FPS. It's really hard to see, but it's under this question mark. If you click that, you could see all the stats of your scene, which is so cool because you can see like how well it's working, if it's really running at FPS that you want. You can see that it's rendering all of these triangles. It's kind of a lot, but overall this is going pretty well. So I like checking in on that. And then one other thing, quickly mention, documentation. I always want to take screenshots and then you're like, wait, I have all this stuff here on my interface, so I can't take screenshots. You click this thing in the left, the menu, and then click camera mode, and then click hide all here. You can now actually take screenshots without all of that, or screen record. Yeah, so I know this is like the break time. I don't know if you guys have any questions now, or if you want to ask them when we come back.
Yeah, I think, thank you so much, Marin. This has been a wild ride. I'm just can't wait to like try these things out.
For sure. Yeah, that was a lot of info. So
yeah.
thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to make space if Antoine is ready to just share just before we go on a break.
Sorry, I didn't see. We can go ahead and do the break.
Okay. Okay, will you be back for the afternoon? Because I thought you will have to be.
Sorry, I'm not seeing.
Okay, I could be really sure I have only 5 minutes, right?
Oh, I will. My own presentation will only have 5 minutes left for it, right? So I mean, I can do it really short, really quickly.
Yeah, you can just, we invite you to share before we break.
How's everybody feeling? It's okay, okay. Cool. I can just make it really, really short. It's not 5 minutes. So anyway, first of all, thank you, Marion. Mm, And many people, I guess you can see, I'm completely deaf. I'm Antoine Hunter. I'm Charity to Blackfoot plus African. You know, being from Oakland, home of the Black Panther, we value community, people, and that's what I'm really about because that's the big influence of my community. You know, they say it take a village to raise a child, and my village with Oakland that raised me, you know, to really care about the not just individual, but everybody try to be uplifted together. You know what I mean? My I will say growing up, I'm very poetic with my words. And people will say, why you talk like that? You know, I would say move like mango, things like that. You know, people be like, mango, what? You know, I think today people are more open minded, but back then it was like, I felt like I didn't have a part of the world to be myself. You know what I mean? Especially, I guess, early in the age, I identified myself as everything. It was everything, not just only he and she, but everything. I was connected with all that energy from my mother's side, my father's side, put all together. And I didn't mind people saying he or she, but back, you know, 87, you know what I mean? And the society was just trying to keep telling me who I am instead of letting me tell them who they are. And that makes it really weird. I'm like, who's more deaf, me or the society? You know what I mean? Because they're not listening. So I had to find a way to be a part of the world, you know, because I almost took myself out of the world. So put myself into the world by using art and dance. So many know me as a dancer. You know, I try to dance all over the world to communicate with people. You know, because I first found out that dance was the way to communicate. I would dance to the song Whitney Houston. I will always love you. You know that one. That. And I was just doing the movement, and people really understanding me through the movement without words, and that saved my life. And I wanted art to save other people's life. So I travel around the world teaching that. That's what I really do. And then I set up a platform for other deaf people or people with disability to express themselves because I want to learn from them too. You know what I mean? If you if you make a fist like this, well, if you can copy me, humor me, yeah, yeah, and then you bring it together, yeah, that's the sign for cold, yeah, yeah. So when I do my movements and I go like that, It helped people understand that I was cold and I'm alone. There's nobody here to feel warm. You know what I mean? You didn't have to know sign language, but you can get the feeling of empathy from through there. You know, I try to use my platform to not just there, but educate what deaf culture is. You know, man. Uh, I don't have the I don't have the ability to share a little bit. It's really fast. I would tell people like this human is deaf, hard of hearing, late deafness. What does that mean? You know, and people get the misunderstanding what deaf is. Capital D, we talk about culture. Small D, we talk about people getting sick and things like that. You know, we say the old word hearing impaired, right? We don't want to use that word anymore. It's kind of outdated, meaning kind of fixing, you know. So we prefer the word hard of hearing. You know, man. It's kind of interesting that people have a perspective of what death is. You know, it's like, oh, pity. And you have a hearing in the picture, there's the waitress, a hearing wife with a deaf husband, they're tiny to each other. And she kind of like, oh, I really admire the woman marrying the handicap. But I'm like, hold up, excuse me? You know what I mean? We're fine. There's nothing, different about us. Because basically people are going back to the old term, deaf and mute, deaf dumb. Usually back then it said that means not speaking. But today when we say dumb, we really mean dumb, you know what I mean? So it's like don't say deaf and dumb because people, especially in America, are not using that word correctly. Our world is really different. My friend drew the comment. I thought it was really cool. One person asked, "Do you miss being hearing?" I'm like, "Do you miss being deaf?" Oh, you never experienced being deaf, so well, it's just different. You know what I mean? There's nothing really missing. We're just different. What we're missing is the conversation to learn from each other. You know, and we have to find a different way to listen. Like, not just listen with our ears, but maybe listen with our eye, listen with our heart. And because sometimes words can't articulate clearly. So I try to do those, make that part of my platform. That's, that's my life project, ongoing, building a bridge for each other. I'm hoping that when I learn from this, I could be able to provide access for people with disabilities that can't get out, people who are deaf want to participate, you know. And some people that I have in my life, they're smell sense, very, very sensitive, that what they smell, and they have a seizure or things like that. So their home is the safest space. So how can we bring them to see our show and things like that? I'm hoping to learn from this. You know what I mean? I just finished MIT and learned all this tech this summer. I'm feeling okay. I want to make the next step, to building the world, put manage business and everything whole together. Yeah, I think I only have 1 minute left, but uh, I feel just one last thing I will share with you. Oh, there it is. And then I'll let everyone go.
Yes.
Uh,
We do have like a few more minutes. How are people feeling? Okay. We have a hard stop at
oh,
15.
there it is.
15.
Can you hear that? That's it.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. I love this. Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful presentation and such a wonderful insight into, your perspective. Thank you for blessing us with that. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you in the cohort, to learn more from you, to understand the blind spots, to understand, where I can improve in my way of seeing the world and interacting and with my fellow humans and lovely beings. So thank you. I want to let everyone go for a break, have some food, have a walk, have some water. Let's come back and create more. If you're not able to rejoin us, that's fine, and we'll see you the next time. We'll be meeting again on Friday if you're not able to join us again for the afternoon, but looking forward for the continuation. So have a good one. If there's any questions, just let me know.
Yeah, same.
So have a good lunch then. See you back at 1 PST or 4 Eastern time, or if you're anytime in between then. Take care.
Hey, I'm sorry, I'm super late. Is it okay if I, Antoine, is it okay if I ask you a quick question? This is Terry speaking. I'm super curious about, you kind of explained it in the video, but I'm curious about how the rhythm or the audio translates to the vibrations. And as someone, as a choreographer who choreographs to music, is there something that I can do to enhance that vibration in the music so that anyone who's hard of hearing could have the same experience that I would want them to have in experiencing the music?
Right now I'm working with a video game group, and we're trying to get people who are deaf themselves to feel the music and video games. Many people love music and video games. I mean, we're stuck in our head with Mario Brothers. You know, I'm with Drop Lab, the shoes. Basically, we built a shoe to connect to the video game, iPod, Bluetooth. The vibration is really awesome to feel from your feet and just any other part of your body. Even if you have heart and disease or anything, it really stimulate everyone. And it's called Drop Lab. Uh, that we've been. Oh, sorry, I said it only to one person. Um, but it's really amazing experience because it's just not banging the vibration. What I mean, it's really trying to have some clarity in the speaker and the device that help feel uh like you can feel exactly where the music is and exactly what lyrics is being spoken. It's really, really awesome. Um, Everything that we use to try to understand music, it can be from lighting, lighting effect. It can be things in motion. What I mean, like when we move, we watch Jurassic Park. The first thing we saw was the water vibrating. Very visual, and me as a dancer, I feel the vibration here, and I create my own music. You know what I mean? And I just memorize it to my body. So there's many, many ways, but those are the parts that I work with right now that really help for deaf community.
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Super inspiring.
Thanks, everyone. So thanks for that question, Terry. Thanks again, Antoine. Thank you, Juan and Nessa, for the interpretation, and for Marin for this.
Here in the United